What if I told you that the biggest threat to our civilization isn't coming from criminals, terrorists, or even corrupt politicians? What if the real danger is sitting right next to you at work, in your neighborhood, maybe even in your own family, and they genuinely believe they're making the world a better place? Before you click away thinking this is just another rant about those people, stick with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share will completely change how you see the world around you. A German theologian named Dietrich Bonhoeffer made a shocking discovery while watching his country descend into madness during the 1930s. He realized that it wasn't evil people who destroyed Germany, it was stupid people. And I'm not talking about low IQ or lack of education. I'm talking about intelligent, well-meaning individuals who had simply stopped thinking for themselves. These people became more dangerous than any criminal because their actions were completely unpredictable and immune to reason. They could justify absolutely anything as long as the group approved of it. Here's what's going to blow your mind. This exact same pattern is happening right now, all around us, and most people don't even realize they're participating in it. By the end of this video, you'll be able to spot the signs of collective stupidity in real time. You'll understand why criminals are actually safer to deal with than people caught up in herd mentality. And most importantly, you'll learn practical strategies to protect yourself and your loved ones from becoming part of the problem. If this resonates with you, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It tells me you're ready for content that challenges conventional thinking. And if you want more insights that cut through the noise and get to the truth about human behavior and society, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Trust me, what you're about to discover will make you see every news story, every social movement, and every group dynamic in a completely different light. I'm going to reveal exactly how intelligent people become functionally stupid, why this makes them more dangerous than hardened criminals, and how you can develop the intellectual immunity to resist this epidemic of conformity. This isn't about politics or taking sides, this is about understanding a fundamental pattern of human behavior that's been destroying societies for centuries. Stay with me until the end, because the final strategy I'll share could literally save you from making the biggest mistake of your life. You know, there's something deeply unsettling about watching intelligent people become complete fools overnight. That's exactly what Dietrich Bonhoeffer witnessed in 1930s Germany, and it shook him to his core. Here was a nation of philosophers, scientists, and intellectuals, the same people who gave us Beethoven and Einstein, suddenly marching in lockstep like mindless zombies. Bonhoeffer wasn't just watching from the sidelines, he was right there, seeing his neighbors, his students, even his fellow theologians transform into something he could barely recognize. What he discovered would challenge everything we think we know about human nature and societal collapse. The traditional narrative tells us that evil people destroyed Germany, but Bonhoeffer saw something far more terrifying. It wasn't evil that was the primary threat, it was stupidity. Not the kind of stupidity you might think of, like low IQ or poor education. These were brilliant people, professors and doctors, who had simply stopped thinking for themselves. They'd handed over their intellectual responsibility to the crowd, to the movement, to the noise around them. Bonhoeffer realized that when people abandon independent thinking, they become more dangerous than any criminal because their actions are completely unpredictable and immune to reason. Think about it this way. A criminal has motives you can understand. They want money, power, revenge, something logical, even if morally wrong. You can negotiate with them, predict their moves, even appeal to their self-interest. But when intelligent people become functionally stupid through conformity, all bets are off. They'll do absolutely anything the group demands without question, without considering consequences, without even understanding what they're doing. Bonhoeffer watched this collective stupidity spread like a virus through German society, and he understood that this was the real engine of destruction. What made Bonhoeffer's observations so powerful was that he wasn't some detached academic theorist. He was living through it, watching people he'd known for years suddenly become strangers to themselves. He saw how social pressure and the comfort of belonging to something bigger could literally rewire human behavior. The scariest part? Most of these people genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. They'd convinced themselves that thinking independently was selfish, that questioning the group was betrayal. This pattern of collective stupidity didn't just enable evil, it became indistinguishable from it. And once you understand this mechanism, you start seeing it everywhere in modern society. Here's where things get really interesting, and frankly, a bit scary. The stupidity that Bonhoeffer identified isn't about intelligence in the traditional sense. You could have a PhD in quantum physics and still be functionally stupid when it comes to independent thinking. It's like having a supercomputer that's been programmed to only run one application. All that processing power becomes useless because you've voluntarily limited your mental capacity to whatever the group tells you to think. I've seen this happen to brilliant people in corporate environments, academic institutions, and social movements. They'll use their intelligence to justify and rationalize whatever position the group has adopted, rather than actually thinking through the issues themselves. The mechanism is surprisingly simple and devastatingly effective. When people feel uncertain or overwhelmed, they look around for cues about how to think and behave. It's a natural human instinct. We're social creatures, after all. But here's the trap. Instead of using their own judgment as a starting point and then considering other perspectives, they completely outsource their thinking to the collective. They stop asking, "What do I actually think about this?" and start asking, "What should I think about this?" That subtle shift changes everything. Suddenly, their intelligence becomes a tool for conformity rather than discovery. They become really, really good at finding reasons to support whatever the group believes, rather than figuring out what's actually true. What makes this particularly dangerous in our modern world is how sophisticated the mechanisms of influence have become. Social media algorithms feed people information that confirms what they already believe, creating echo chambers that feel like the entire world agrees with them. Professional marketers and political operatives understand exactly how to trigger herd mentality responses. They know that people want to feel smart and moral and part of something important. So they package their messages in ways that make conformity feel like wisdom and independent thinking feel like selfishness or ignorance. It's brilliant manipulation, and most people never even realize it's happening. The tragic irony is that the more educated someone is, the better they often become at this kind of rationalized stupidity. They have more sophisticated tools for justifying positions they've never actually examined. They can cite studies, quote experts, and construct elaborate arguments, all in service of ideas they've simply absorbed from their social environment. Bonhoeffer would recognize this pattern instantly. It's the same intellectual corruption he witnessed in Germany, just with better packaging and more subtle delivery methods. But understanding how this stupidity epidemic spreads is just the beginning. The real question is, why are stupid people actually more dangerous than criminals? Let me paint you a picture that'll make this crystal clear. Imagine you're walking down a dark alley and you see two people approaching. One is a known criminal, and the other is someone caught up in collective stupidity. Which one should you be more afraid of? Your instinct probably says the criminal, right? But Bonhoeffer would tell you that you're thinking about this all wrong. The criminal wants something specific: your wallet, your watch, maybe your car. You can give them what they want and walk away. You might even be able to talk them out of it or appeal to their self-interest. There's a logic to their behavior, twisted as it might be. But the person trapped in collective stupidity? They're operating on a completely different level of unpredictability. They might decide you're a threat to their ideology and try to destroy your reputation, your career, or your relationships. They might support policies that hurt everyone, including themselves, because the group told them it was the right thing to do. They're not motivated by personal gain or even personal hatred. They're motivated by abstract ideas they don't really understand. And that makes them particularly dangerous because there's no reasoning with someone who's stopped reasoning altogether. Here's what really gets under my skin about this whole thing. Criminals usually know they're doing something wrong. They might not care, but they understand the moral and legal boundaries they're crossing. That awareness creates at least some limitation on their behavior. But people caught in collective stupidity genuinely believe they're doing good. They think they're saving the world, fighting for justice, or protecting society. That moral certainty removes all the natural brakes that might otherwise limit their actions. They'll do things that even hardened criminals would hesitate to do, all while feeling righteous about it. The scariest part is how this plays out on a societal level. A few criminals can't destroy a civilization. They're too few, too disorganized, and too focused on personal gain. But when large numbers of otherwise decent people become functionally stupid, they can seriously damage the foundations of society while believing they're improving it. They'll vote for policies that sound compassionate but create unintended consequences. They'll support leaders who manipulate them because those leaders say the right words. They'll turn on their neighbors, their families, even their own interests, all in service of ideas they've never really examined. And the most insidious part? The conformity that creates this stupidity often feels like the safest, most socially acceptable choice. You want to know the most effective way to turn a room full of intelligent people into a group of functional idiots? Just add social pressure and watch the magic happen. I've seen this play out in boardrooms, family dinners, and friend groups more times than I can count. It starts innocently enough. Someone expresses an opinion that becomes the dominant view in the room. Maybe it's about a business decision. Maybe it's about how to raise kids. Maybe it's just about what movie to watch. But once that opinion gains momentum, something fascinating and terrifying happens. People start editing their own thoughts to match the group consensus. The psychology behind this is both brilliant and devastating. Human beings have this deep-seated need to belong, to be accepted, to avoid the discomfort of being the odd one out. It's hardwired into us from millions of years of evolution when being kicked out of the tribe meant death. So when we sense that our genuine thoughts might put us at odds with the group, our brains start working overtime to find ways to align with the majority. We tell ourselves that we must be wrong, that smarter people than us have already figured this out, that maybe we're missing something important. Before we know it, we've talked ourselves out of our own judgment. What makes this particularly insidious is how good it feels in the moment. There's a real rush that comes from being part of something bigger than yourself, from feeling like you're on the right side of an issue, from having the approval and acceptance of your peers. Independent thinking, on the other hand, can be lonely and uncomfortable. It means potentially being misunderstood, criticized, or excluded. It means taking responsibility for your own beliefs rather than letting the group carry that burden. So even when our gut tells us something's not right, we override that instinct in favor of social safety. We trade our intellectual independence for emotional comfort. But here's the trap that Bonhoeffer understood so clearly. Once you've given up your independent thinking, you lose the ability to recognize when you're being manipulated. You become vulnerable to anyone who knows how to trigger your need for belonging and acceptance. Skilled manipulators, whether they're corporate leaders, community influencers, or charismatic personalities, understand exactly how to make their agenda feel like the moral, intelligent, socially acceptable position. They make independent thinking seem dangerous, selfish, or ignorant. And before you know it, you're not just following their lead, you're actively participating in spreading their influence to others. The scariest part is that this pattern is everywhere in modern society, and most people don't even realize they're caught in it. Take a look around you right now, and I guarantee you'll spot at least 3 examples of collective stupidity in action before you finish your next meal. It's everywhere, and it's gotten so sophisticated that it often disguises itself as intelligence, compassion, or moral clarity. Social media has turned this into an art form. You've got people sharing articles they haven't read, supporting causes they don't understand, and attacking ideas they've never actually examined, all because they've seen others in their social circle doing the same thing. The algorithm feeds them exactly what they want to hear, creating the illusion that everyone reasonable thinks exactly like they do. Corporate culture has become another breeding ground for this kind of functional stupidity. Walk into any large organization and you'll find intelligent people parroting the latest management buzzwords, supporting initiatives they privately think are ridiculous, and avoiding any suggestion that might rock the boat. They've learned that career advancement comes from conformity, not from independent thinking. I've watched brilliant engineers agree to impossible deadlines, marketing professionals promote products they know don't work, and managers implement strategies they know will fail, all because speaking up feels too risky. Family dynamics often operate the same way. You've got intelligent adults who stop expressing their real opinions about important decisions because they don't want to upset the family peace. They'll go along with financial choices, parenting approaches, or lifestyle decisions that they privately disagree with, telling themselves that harmony is more important than honesty. Meanwhile, their unexpressed concerns often turn out to be exactly right, but by then it's too late to course correct without major conflict. What's particularly troubling is how this stupidity has infected institutions that were supposed to be guardians of independent thinking. Universities, which should be bastions of intellectual curiosity and rigorous debate, have increasingly become echo chambers where conformity is rewarded and dissent is punished. Professional organizations face pressure to support politically convenient conclusions rather than following evidence wherever it leads. Even religious institutions often prioritize social acceptability over spiritual truth. When the very institutions designed to promote thinking become engines of conformity, you know you're dealing with a systemic problem. But recognizing these patterns is just the first step. The real challenge is breaking free from them. Alright, here's where we get practical. You've probably recognized yourself in some of these patterns, we all have. because this stuff is part of the human condition. The question isn't whether you've ever fallen into collective stupidity, it's whether you're willing to do the uncomfortable work of thinking independently. And let me tell you, it is uncomfortable. It means questioning ideas that make you feel good about yourself. It means being willing to change your mind when evidence contradicts your beliefs. It means accepting that you might be wrong about things that feel really important to you. The first step is developing what I call intellectual humility. This doesn't mean being wishy-washy or uncertain about everything. It means being honest about the limitations of your own knowledge and perspective. When you hear an idea that resonates with you, especially one that makes you feel morally superior or intellectually sophisticated, that's exactly when you need to slow down and examine it more carefully. Ask yourself, do I believe this because I've thought it through, or because it feels good to believe? Start seeking out the strongest versions of opposing arguments rather than the weakest ones. If you can't accurately explain why someone might disagree with you, you probably don't understand the issue well enough to have a strong opinion about it. Building this intellectual independence requires consistent practice. In conversations, try saying I don't know enough about that to have an opinion instead of reflexively agreeing with whatever position seems socially acceptable. When everyone in the room is nodding along to some popular idea, ask a genuine question that gets people thinking rather than just reinforcing their existing beliefs. Start reading sources that challenge your worldview, not to adopt their positions necessarily, but to understand how reasonable people can reach different conclusions. This isn't about becoming contrarian for its own sake, it's about rebuilding your capacity for independent judgment. The most important thing to understand is that independent thinking is a skill that atrophies if you don't use it. Like physical fitness, it requires regular exercise and conscious effort. You've got to create space in your life for genuine reflection, away from the noise and pressure of social media, news cycles, and group dynamics. You need to practice sitting with uncertainty rather than rushing to adopt whatever position makes you feel most comfortable or accepted. This isn't easy work, and it doesn't come with the immediate emotional rewards of tribal belonging. But it's the only way to become the kind of person who can resist manipulation and contribute something valuable to society. And speaking of contributing to society, there's something crucial we need to discuss about our responsibility to others. Here's something that might surprise you. Your individual choice to think independently isn't just about you. It's one of the most important contributions you can make to society as a whole. Bonhoeffer understood this deeply. He saw that when enough people abandon their intellectual responsibility, the entire social fabric starts to unravel. But he also understood that it only takes a relatively small number of people committed to independent thinking to provide a counterbalance to collective stupidity. You don't need to convert everyone. You just need to be part of that critical mass of people who refuse to go along with the crowd. Think of yourself as a kind of social immune system. Just like your body needs enough healthy cells to fight off infections, society needs enough independent thinkers to resist the spread of collective stupidity. When you refuse to mindlessly echo popular opinions, when you ask uncomfortable questions, when you insist on evidence and rational discussion, you're creating space for others to do the same. You're giving permission for people to express doubts they might have been suppressing. You're modeling what intellectual courage looks like in practice. And trust me, people notice. Even when they don't say anything, even when they seem to resist, you're planting seeds that might take root later. But this influence has to be strategic and thoughtful. You can't fight collective stupidity by being obnoxious or self-righteous about your independent thinking. That just triggers people's defensive mechanisms and pushes them deeper into their tribes. Instead, you've got to lead by example. Show genuine curiosity about other perspectives. Admit when you don't know something or when you've changed your mind about something. Ask questions that help people examine their own assumptions rather than attacking their conclusions directly. The goal isn't to win arguments, it's to create an environment where honest thinking can flourish. The long-term impact of this approach is profound. When you consistently demonstrate intellectual integrity, people start to trust your judgment in ways that go beyond any specific issue or opinion. You become someone they turn to when they're genuinely confused or conflicted about something important. You create ripple effects that extend far beyond your immediate circle of influence. Most importantly, you help preserve and strengthen the cultural norms that support independent thinking, critical analysis, and honest debate. These norms are fragile. They can be destroyed in a generation if not actively maintained. But they can also be rebuilt and strengthened by people who understand their value and are willing to do the work to protect them. So here we are at the crossroads. You now understand what Bonhoeffer discovered in the darkest chapter of human history. That stupid people, not criminals, pose the greatest threat to civilization. You've seen how intelligent individuals can become functionally stupid through conformity, how social pressure transforms independent thinkers into blind followers, and how this pattern is playing out right now in every corner of our society. But understanding the problem is only half the battle. The real question is, what are you going to do about it? Let me be brutally honest with you. Most people watching this video will nod along, maybe share it with a friend, and then go right back to their comfortable patterns of thinking. They'll continue outsourcing their judgment to social media algorithms, political tribes, and corporate messaging. They'll keep choosing the safety of conformity over the responsibility of independent thought. And that's exactly how societies collapse, not through dramatic revolutions, but through the quiet surrender of individual intellectual responsibility. Is that going to be you? Here's your moment of truth. Are you going to be part of the critical mass that protects society from collective stupidity? Or are you going to blend into the crowd and hope someone else takes care of it? Because let me tell you something. There is no someone else. It's either you, standing up for independent thinking in your workplace, your community, your relationships, or it's nobody. The future of rational discourse, honest debate, and genuine progress depends on people like you having the courage to think for themselves and model that behavior for others. If this video gave you a new perspective on something important, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. It helps other people discover content that challenges conventional thinking instead of just reinforcing what they already believe. And if you want to be part of a community that values independent thinking over popular opinion, consider subscribing to this channel. We're building something valuable here. A space where challenging ideas can flourish without the suffocating pressure of groupthink. I want to leave you with 3 questions that will determine whether you become part of the solution or part of the problem. When was the last time you changed your mind about something important based on evidence rather than social pressure? Can you name 3 beliefs you hold that most people in your social circle would disagree with? And most importantly, what are you going to do differently tomorrow to exercise your intellectual independence? Your answers to these questions will reveal whether you're truly free or just another sheep in designer clothes. The clock is ticking. Collective stupidity is spreading faster than ever before, and we need more people who understand what's at stake. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Start that uncomfortable conversation with a friend who's been mindlessly following the crowd. Most importantly, commit to being the kind of person who thinks before they speak, questions before they accept, and leads before they follow. Because in the end, the battle against stupidity isn't won in lecture halls or political arenas, it's won in the daily choices you make about how to use your mind.